How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. I hope you're having a great week playing a ton of video games. I am right at the end of Dying Light the Following. I've been spending so many hours in this game, and I'm finally at that point where I'm like ready for it to be over so I can move on to other stuff. There's a lot of indie games I picked up that I'll feature in a future video. But yeah, let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. In today's video, we have 3 topics to cover, starting out with Valve really pushing Steam Deck verification in a cool way. I know Steam Deck verification doesn't really matter, but like as a marketing tool, it works really well, and this new update is really interesting. After that, let's talk about how great Ninja Gaiden 4 runs on the Steam Deck. I'm honestly super surprised because this game is Unreal Engine 5, so I assumed it would run like crap, but they put a little extra work in to make it run specifically very good on the Steam Deck. And finally, let's check in on the Steam frame, because obviously something is happening and I want to know when it's going to be announced. Before I jump into the video, we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. I would really appreciate it if you enjoy these videos, if you help me out by subscribing and setting your notifications to all. And if you see the hype button below the video, hit that. You can hit it up to 3 times. It apparently helps videos get more reach. I got my data. It does improve your reach. So there's a new metric that really matters on YouTube that I have to pay attention to. I hate that it's called the hype button. I think that's such a terrible name. It's like so zoomery, but yeah, if you could hype the video up to 3 times, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, let's get into the first news topic here. We all know verification is like kind of subpar, and I think that's being a little nice to it. It's a good idea in theory, you know, to let you know whether or not you're going to get a good experience out of a game on the Steam Deck, but because it doesn't take into account general performance and more looks at things like not needing a launcher, it launching with decent settings that'll allow it to be playable. So like their version of playable means like it runs. You might get 15 or 20 FPS, but as long as you can physically play the game, it gets the verified checkmark badge, and like things like, I don't know, readability of text really factor into it. And really what I look for is playable or unknown, because playable means you can launch it, it might have a launcher, and unknown means they just haven't tested it. But 9 times out of 10, the game will work just fine. But clearly Steam Deck verification matters to like the wider circle of people who are either on the fence about buying a Steam Deck or, you know, don't really want to invest the time into going to Steam Deck HQ or ProtonDB to see how well a game runs. So I like when Valve kind of highlights, or other developers highlight, that their game is Steam Deck verified. We've seen it with Sony. We've seen it with Microsoft, shockingly, knowing how hard they're investing in, you know, the ROG Ally platform and the Xbox full screen platform. And we've also seen it with Square Enix. They are crazy about making sure everyone knows their games are Steam Deck verified, and every time that happens, I see a lot of news articles gain a lot of traction on Twitter and on the general websites like VGC.news and everyone else. So clearly, even though it's not the greatest system in the world, there is a reason for Steam and Valve to kind of keep pushing it, and they're doing that a little bit further with these dedicated pages you can activate for your game. So if you're a developer who has a game that's Steam Deck verified, Valve gives you the tools to build out a page that highlights the game with a big Steam Deck with your game running in the middle, letting everyone know that the game is Steam Deck verified. Now, apparently this has been a feature since 2023, but Valve has put in some extra legwork to start emailing developers to let them know, hey, your game is Steam Deck verified. You can create a dedicated page for it that you can then tweet out from your developer account and let your fans know that if they have a Steam Deck, they can get a good experience pretty much across the board on their Steam Deck playing your game. The weird thing is you have to actively look for it, so the only way to really find them is to find the specific link to get to these pages and then plug in the compat data app ID at the end of the link, and then it'll take you to that game's page if and only if the developer has gone through the effort to have that page created. But knowing that Valve is kind of reaching out to other developers that have games that look and run good on the Steam Deck to make these pages, I'd assume that very soon we're going to see them start to build this out more and make it a dedicated feature on the Steam homepage, which is a good thing because, as you know, you can only buy the Steam Deck through Valve. So any advertising for the Steam Deck is going to be done directly on Steam. And just knowing how many users there are on Steam, I'd imagine there's still a pretty sizable group of people out there who like might have heard tertiarily about the Steam Deck. Like, you know, they heard their friends talking about it. It's in their memory, but it's not something they actively think about. If you put it in their face when they open up Steam or at least navigate to the store, that's what gets the snowball rolling to maybe click on a page, investigate it, and then once you're on the hardware page, having a way to get linked to a bunch of software pages to show games that look and run good, and especially one that they're already interested in playing, that's a good way way to get people to continue to buy them. I've seen some criticism that like it's weird to push the Steam Deck marketing right now because it's 3 years old. And honestly, the situation is so weird because like with the PS6, that's in the rumor mill like crazy right now, thanks to Moore's Law is dead and Kepler. It looks like they're targeting 2027, which would make the PS5 life cycle around 7 years. People are like militant about that. They're like, this thing has not been taken advantage of yet. We still have a lot of life to get out of our PlayStation 5s. They shouldn't even be considering a PlayStation 6 at this point in time. Like they're actually very mad about it. But then on the other side with the Steam Deck, people are like rampant about saying, oh, this thing's old tech. It's a potato. It's basically like playing on the Game Boy when the DS is out. No one should buy a Steam Deck 3 years in. The life cycle's only been 3 years, guys. And honestly, like, yeah, there are a few games that have issues, but it's not like they don't have issues on other platforms. I'm not going to hammer that point too deeply because I've talked about it a lot lately. But like when you see a game that comes out that's new, that doesn't run well on the Steam Deck, it's not specifically not running well on the Steam Deck. It's not running well on any PC unless you have a 5090. And even if you have a 5090, there are games that you can't get a native lock 60 FPS even using medium settings like Metal Gear Solid Delta. So it really comes down to the game more than it comes down to the hardware. Like I think 3 years is relatively short for any console life cycle. And I know it gets kind of twisted when you look at the other handhelds like the Legion Go and ROG Ally, because those haven't even been around for like what, 2 years, and we've already had 3 iterations of both. They're the ones kind of pushing this narrative of short life cycles on PC, but with all the optimization work and continued work on SteamOS specifically tailored to the Steam Deck, I feel like we got a couple more years at least where we could get decent performance out of the deck, and that's why I think it keeps selling as well as it is. So yeah, I think it's great that Valve is reinvesting into letting people know that the Steam Deck runs games well, and it's so cheap. It's $400. I mean, compare that to the Switch. The Switch 2 is $450 or $500 if you want the Mario Kart bundle. The PS5 is raising prices, but generally you can get it for around $500, whether it's the disc or digital one, you're in that $500 ballpark. Xbox Series S and X are in the $500 to $700 range. The PS5 Pro is $750. ROG Ally is $1,000. Legion Go 2 is over $1,000. And the Steam Deck is sitting right there comfortably at $399. And you could have just gotten it for $329 with 256 gigs of storage. Like you could get a 1 terabyte SD card for less than $100 and fill that thing up with tons of great games you can play anytime you want. And something that just blows my mind with the Windows experience is that I think we all take for granted how well the Steam Deck and SteamOS work. Like the fact that you can suspend games for up to weeks at a time and not have the thing die in standby mode, but turn right back on in a snap and get you right back into the game. I think we take that for granted because if you put the ROG Ally into sleep mode, you're looking at like a solid 45 seconds to a minute to get back into Windows. And it's a total crapshoot on whether or not your game is still running. And I was talking to my friend Lord Cognito from the Iron Lords podcast, and there's still major issues with the offline mode on the Xbox experience. So I think the Steam Deck is doing just fine. I think it's good that they're kind of reinvesting in it and getting marketing out there. And I hope a lot of developers sort of buy into this verified page making program because it's only a good thing for the deck. But speaking of Xbox making surprise moves to help the Steam Deck, we got to talk about Ninja Gaiden 4. I mean, there's a big criticism point to be levied against Xbox with this in the sense that they just refuse to market their games. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if you didn't know that Double Fine, who is owned by Xbox now, just released a game they've been working on for years since Psychonauts 2 called Keeper. And the only reason I heard about it is because I make thumbnails for my friend Jake Baldino's personal channel, and he's been playing that game, and he said he's thinking about doing a video on it. And yeah, that's the only reason I know that game came out. And it's the same situation with Ninja Gaiden 4. I've seen some reviews go up, but like there haven't really been a lot of trailers. There hasn't been a lot of marketing from Xbox. And it's kind of crazy because from what I've played of this game, it is immaculate. It's excellent. And I was kind of scared that it wouldn't run on the Steam Deck because of course it's in Unreal Engine 5. But not only does it run well, the people at Ninja Theory and Platinum Games went the extra mile specifically tailoring this game towards the Steam Deck. So when you boot it up, it has has a Steam Deck preset, not like the low preset. It's specifically called Steam Deck mode, not handheld mode, Steam Deck mode. And it basically drops the game to low and medium settings and sets it with its in-game frame limiter to 30 FPS. And it works 30 FPS throughout the entire game because it has a really good implementation of dynamic resolution. And I've messed around with dynamic resolution in the past before, and I've never really been into it. But this is one of the first games I've played that uses it, where you don't really notice it happening in real time. It's really when you stop, you see that the resolution looks a little low at certain points. But the fact that it stays at a rock solid 30 FPS and doesn't stutter, doesn't have those weird extended frame time drops, I think is a fair trade-off, especially considering how performant your PC needs to be to run games in Unreal Engine 5. I read the Steam Deck HQ breakdown of performance as well to see if I could push it to 45 or 60, and while you can, by unlocking the frame rate and leaving dynamic resolution on, they say that it introduces input lag. I have to investigate this because there have been multiple instances where people have pointed out that the Steam Deck's frame limiter introduces input lag, and I'm someone who's very sensitive to input lag. That's a huge reason why I'm so anti-lossless scaling, anti-frame gen, because the lag that it introduces is absolutely nuts. I have never once noticed the Steam Deck frame limiter's input lag, and I've seen people criticize Elden Ring Night Rain specifically, and now Ninja Gaiden 4 for having input lag from the limiter, but I beat every boss in Night Rain playing at 30 FPS on the Steam Deck. It was fine. I was able to get most of the hardest achievements in the game. I actually got the one where you have to beat 3 bosses in a row, which was extremely difficult when the game came out, and I did all of that on the Steam Deck. So I think you could get 45 FPS by leaving it at the Steam Deck preset and unlocking the frame rate than using the Steam Deck's limiter. But I guess if you play more of these games, you really investigate the technical state, and you're just more sensitive to input lag than me, you might see some of the input lag. But yeah, knowing that this game runs really well on the deck, I wish Xbox was marketing it more because the story is honestly cool. I was a little bit nervous going in because it's one of those stories where like they're trying to pass the torch. There's a new character called Yamako, who's a young guy. He's got like emo hair. He's kind of like got a chip on his shoulder. So it's like, you know, like everything they make now where like they're bringing back the Splinter Cell show, and shocker, Sam Fisher's like shit on the entire time by this new super cool badass recruit. I thought they were going to do that, but no, they give Ryu respect. They make him a scary boss at a certain point of the game. And like at the beginning, Yamako does not really do it for me, but as the game goes on, I kind of started to like him. It's really similar to how Nero shook out in Devil May Cry 4 and 5, if you've ever played those games. So if you're interested in those hack and slash, super gory, just super high octane, early 2000 action games like Elden Ring Night Rain, like Devil May Cry 5, and now Ninja Gaiden 4, I think this game is worth investing into. And finally, that brings me to the third news story here, which is what's going on with the Steam Frame. So quick update, we all thought the Steam Frame was the Valve console, which I still hope they're working on because I feel like that thing could disrupt everything, but then it turned out to be a new VR headset. We've got some updates on what's going on with that, and a lot of people are expecting it to be announced by the end of the year. We've heard from Valve News Network, we've heard from Gabe Follower, we've heard from Sadly It's Bradley, but the news source kind of lending credence to the rumors that it will be out or at least announced sometime this year is Upload VR. They're kind of like the written deck ready of VR. I've used that site for a very long time, and they're saying that they're pretty sure this thing is coming out this year. The latest update we got on pricing is from Gabe Follower that happened way earlier in the year, or maybe towards the middle of last year, that at the point of reporting, it was targeting around $1,200. I really hope that rumor turns out to be wrong, because if you look at the chip they're using, which is from Snapdragon, it looks like it's going to be just a little bit more powerful than what we see in the Meta Quest 3. And while the Meta Quest 3 is by no means cheap, it's still in that affordable price range. And if Valve really wants to grow the VR ecosystem, they're going to have to subsidize the cost a little bit to make it palatable to people who, you know, maybe bought the Steam Deck and want to see a different device running SteamOS. And yeah, I think this thing could be pretty cool as long as they nail the price. Real quick at the end of the video, I have a survey for the hardest core deck ready viewers. I mean, the people who watch towards the end of the video. So I'll level with you real quick. I have PS Ready, I have Deck Ready, I have Real Ones on my horror news channel. The money through AdSense that Deck Ready makes is about 60% lower than all those other channels. It makes sense because the Steam Deck is still so niche, so brands aren't buying ads on that topic. And then a fallout effect of that is that sponsorships from reputable brands, they just aren't in this space. You know, there's the classics like Ugreen, there's JSOX, there's like Steam Deck specific brands that sponsor in the space. But outside of that, the ones that really pay your bills, they don't exist in this space space just yet. But earlier this year, I did a video where I put Bazite on a desktop PC. It turned into like this mini documentary where, you know, the PC broke and then I had to go to the guy's house to fix it. It's one of the best and most fun experiences I've had making a video. And even though it didn't do like views wise on average what a general news video does on Deck Ready, it did enough where I'd like to do more videos like that. The problem is they're expensive. So I was looking at Patreon, I was looking at all my different options, and what I've come down to and what I want your opinion on is if you'd be cool if I turned on channel memberships here on the channel. It wouldn't get you any crazy benefits or anything like exclusive videos or early uploads. It would basically give you a badge next to your name and comment priority. But what it would do is increase the money that this channel makes, which would then give me the ability to invest more time and energy into different styles of videos that aren't just Steam Deck news. I would still make those, but maybe instead of 3 of those a week, it would be 2. Maybe I could do a podcast. I have a few friends in the space that I'd like to talk to about that. I'm just at a point where I'd like to do more, but because I have to pay property tax and my heat and electric, I got to be, you know, conscious about where I'm spending my money and how. So yeah, I just want to know if you'd be cool if I turned on channel memberships, if that's something that you'd be okay buying into as a supporter of Deck Ready. Let me know your opinions down in the comments below. If you don't want to leave it publicly, my DMs are open on my Twitter, Deck_Ready. I'd love to hear from you regardless. So yeah, that's my request to the hardcore Deck Ready audience. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. I hope you're having a great week. Shape on.